If a foreign citizen passes away owning assets in São Paulo, most families assume this will be paperwork. I'm going to be direct. In real life, it's paperwork plus people, and the people part is usually the hardest. I'm Luciano Oliveira, a Brazilian attorney also licensed in California and Texas. I have a fully staffed office in São Paulo, and we help foreign families navigate probate and inheritance issues involving Brazilian real estate, bank assets, and company interests. Quick disclaimer, this is general information only, not legal advice, and not tax advice. Now, let's talk about what actually happens after the death and why families get stuck. Here's the first surprise. You can't just sell the apartment because someone died. Foreign families often think, we'll list the São Paulo property, sell it fast, and divide the money. That's not how Brazil works. Before you can sell, you generally need the inheritance process completed, so the property is legally transferred to the heirs and taxes and formalities are handled. Until that happens, the property is stuck in the name of the deceased, and the market does not care that you are emotionally ready to move on. And if someone in the family tells you, don't worry, we'll sort it out later, what they really mean is, I'm comfortable with delays because I'm not the one paying the price. The real enemy isn't the cartório, it is the gatekeeper relative. Let's be crystal clear for a moment, because this is what families don't say out loud. The number one reason probate becomes a nightmare is not the law. It is the relative who decides they are the unofficial CEO of the state, the person who has the keys, the person who keeps the documents, the person who collects rent or uses the property, the person who tells everyone, I'm handling it, while nothing moves. Sometimes it's not even malicious, sometimes it is control, ego, or chaos. But the effect is the same, the family loses time, leverage, and clarity. So here is our first practical rule after the death. Do not allow one person to become the bottleneck. You need structure, document control, and a clear plan. Understand what probate means in Brazil. In Brazil, the inheritance process is usually called inventário. There are two main paths. One path is extrajudicial, done at a cartório. This is generally faster, but it typically requires that the heirs are legally capable and aligned. If there is fighting, this route usually dies immediately. The other path is judicial in court. This becomes necessary when there are disputes, minors or incapacity issues, or complications that require a judge. Here's another surprise for foreign families. Even the cartório route still requires a Brazilian attorney. This is not a do-yourself-friendly process if you want it done correctly and efficiently. The first 10 days checklist that prevents months of chaos. If you want a clean outcome, focus on these practical moves early. First, lock down the facts. Where did the death occur? Do you have the death certificate? If it was issued outside Brazil, do you have it properly formalized for use in Brazil, including apostilles and sworn translations? Second, map the asset list. In São Paulo, the big three are real estate, bank accounts, and company quotas or shares. A lot of families forget the invisible costs, condominium fees, property tax, utility bills, and building assessments. Those costs keep running even while the family fights. Third, identify who the heirs are under Brazilian law. I'm not going to give you a law school lecture, but here is the practical reality. If you guess wrong about heirs, you can waste months building the wrong plan. Fourth, decide who will sign and who will be represented. If heirs are abroad, we will almost certainly need power of attorney and formal signatures that meet Brazilian standards. This is where families lose time because they assume email is fine, DocuSign is fine, my cousin can sign for me. No, not for the steps that matter. The foreign document surprise. If you are outside Brazil, you are entering Brazil's world of formal documents. Foreign documents need to be legalized correctly and sworn translated into Portuguese in the proper format. Think apostilles, sworn translation, RTD, and other legalization steps. And your names must match across everything. A single difference in spelling between a passport, a birth record, and a Brazilian document can create annoying delays because the system is designed to reject ambiguity. Another common surprise: heirs need a CPF, the Brazilian tax ID. Foreign heirs often discover that they can do basic legal steps without a CPF, and then the inheritance process slows down while everyone scrambles to get documentation aligned. Taxes and deadlines, the part nobody mentions at the funeral. In São Paulo, you will deal with the ITCMD, the inheritance tax. The amount depends on valuation and the type of asset, and it can be significant enough that families either need to plan cash flow or sell something from the pool of assets upon a judge's authorization, or start fighting because one heir expects the estate to pay everything while another wants their share immediately. There are also deadlines, and when deadlines are missed, penalties can appear. So the state is not just legal, it is financial. If you don't plan the tax side early, you create a second crisis on top of the first one. Bank accounts, freezes, and reality. People assume accessing money in a bank account is easy. It's often the opposite. Banks may require specific documentation to release funds. They can't freeze access. They can request a judicial order, not just a death certificate. This is especially true if the account was used for daily expenses and now bills keep hitting while nobody has clear authority to operate. So the smart move is to treat bank assets as part of the plan, not as we'll handle it later. The sell fast goal and why it usually backfires. Let's talk about selling a real estate property in São Paulo quickly. Speed is possible only when the legal path is clean. Expect long timelines when you have any of this. If there is a fight between heirs, if the documentation is messy, if someone is living in the property and refuses to cooperate. The timeline is typically slower than what you expect, and the fastest route is based on getting the legal authority right, getting the tax plan right, getting the registry chain clean, and then sell without having to discount because of less than ideal paperwork. Because buyers in São Paulo, higher value market, will do their own due diligence. If your state documentation is unclear, your buyers will disappear or demand heavy discounts. The one thing foreign families don't expect: getting the money out even after you sell. Distributing money internationally is not just clicking send. There are compliance steps. There is documentation. There are bank realities. If you want a clean international distribution, you need a plan that produces clear proof of origin and a clear and clean paper trail from inheritance to sell to distribution. If you don't plan for that, you can end up with money stuck in Brazil longer than anyone expected, which is exactly when the family tension explodes. How we help? We have a fully staffed office in São Paulo, and we provide A to Z legal support for foreign families handling probate and inheritance matters involving São Paulo assets, including real estate, bank accounts, and corporate interests. We map the fastest legal path, coordinate powers of attorney and document formalities, handle the taxes and registry steps, and build the clean paper trail that makes a sale and international distribution possible. If you're dealing with a São Paulo state right now and you need a clean plan, schedule a consultation with our team. The first consultation is typically done remotely, so you can meet with us whether you are in São Paulo or elsewhere. If this was helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and follow us for more content. See you in our next video.